Welcome to Punching Above Your Weight. This is a podcast that tells the story of people overcoming adversity to reach their goal. We're all told that losing weight is impossible. Well, join me as I learn from the people who have proved that theory wrong. I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to episode 18 of Punching Above Your Weight. Today I'm with a gentleman called Aaron Osheroff. I hope I've pronounced that correctly, actually, Aaron. And Aaron is coming to us from America once again, and I'll introduce Aaron and let him tell us a little bit about his background.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. My name is Aaron Osheroff. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, Marin County, California. I'm roughly 25 miles north of the Golden Gate Bridge, and for a profession, I'm a database administrator. I work in information technology at a community college near our home. I'm married and I have 2 children. And
Fantastic.
I like to play.
And you like to play what, sorry?
I like to play the drums.
Ah, nice. And what was it cold over there at the moment, Aaron? Or is it hot?
We're in a drought right now. I'm looking outside and it's not too cold. I think other parts of the country are kind of frozen. It's I can wear shorts right now, but yeah.
My wife's uncle lives, I think it's Napa Valley. Is that sort of
maybe 45 minutes from here, or even half an hour?
Yeah. We were over in LA a few years ago, and he come and visited us. So I'm pretty sure that's where he is anyway. All right, Aaron. So, mate, with this podcast, I'll normally start off and just get people to give us a background, a little bit about their weight journey, you know, where their issues may have sort of first been realized, and just what were the events that may have led to it. If you can, give our listeners some sort of background on where it all started for you.
Yeah, certainly. I just look back at my life, and I'm kind of an older guy now. I'm 53 years old, and I just kind of look back, and I know even at 8 years old, I was what people called husky, a bit heavier than my peers. And that kind of persisted throughout the years. And I kind of went from being overweight to getting obese as the years went by. I always was engaged in physical activity. I mean, I did some martial arts for several years, from like age 10, 11, 12. My father was into bike riding and jogging. So it wasn't really a lack of physical activity. There was a lot of physical activity going on. It was basically eating too much.
Yeah, right.
And, somewhere along my journey in life, I started eating when I wasn't hungry. And that's been a problem.
So at what age did you kind of realize that you're just eating, despite having no real hunger cues to drive that action?
It could have been even before 10 years old when I think back on it.
Yeah. So what, would you just find yourself at the fridge or, in the pantry or something looking for food? And was it to occupy yourself, or what do you
Sure.
think?
It's like, what's in the refrigerator? Or perhaps I could take a bike ride down to the local convenience store and buy some candy bars. And none of this would have been with my parents' endorsement. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have been happy about it, had they known about it. Junk food was not pushed on me. That was not pushed on me, but I would just go search out food.
Mate, did you have any siblings or family members that had a similar problem? Like, I'm asking that question just in terms of there can be sort of genetic elements to it, if you like, that can drive that eating behavior.
That's a great question. My mom and dad were divorced at a very early age, so I had 2 half siblings. And it seemed like on my dad's side, that kind of stuff wasn't really going on. I didn't see much of a weight problem over there, although my dad did struggle with weight throughout his life. On my mother's side, there have been some issues with my grandmother, who was a lovely human being, and really had a problem with her weight. And I don't know if somehow genetically this was passed down, this compulsion to eat or whatnot, but there have been some weight issues in my family.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's there's a lot of research going on with it. Probably over the last 10 years, where they've been able to identify certain neurotransmitter deficiencies that just drive this eating behavior. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're destined to always remain overweight. We can certainly do things about it, but it certainly does help understand that underlying cause for a lot of people. Aaron, at what age did your weight peak? Like when was the line in the sand for you where you thought, I've got to do something here?
There were like a couple of peaks. It's interesting about this peaking thing is it seems to me that you kind of like reach a higher bar, and then even if you go down from there, which I did, because there were periods in my life where I would just be overweight, and even maybe not that much overweight, and kind of be like a geographic or a geometric kind of sine wave or something like that, and where am I going with this is that it seems like once you peak, it kind of sucks because that that's a threshold that you could go back up to. And I had a couple of peaks, and one was when I was around 20 and I got rear-ended in my car, and then I developed a neck pain, and then I later developed some back pain, and my weight peaked at about 205 pounds at that point. And that was like a new high for me. And I'm 5'7", so that probably, I'm guessing, pushed me from being overweight to obese, I'm guessing. And then over the years, I would lose as much as 30 pounds and look pretty good, but I had a catastrophic thing happen when I was, I guess around 49 years old. Pardon me, I'm losing track of time here. So much time has gone by. When I was about 40, a catastrophic event happened where a repeat drunk driver slammed his motorcycle into me and my 9-year-old daughter at a crosswalk when we were crossing the street, and she lost her life, and I lost my right leg below the knee, and my left leg was mangled, and I spent months in the hospital, and I didn't know if I'd walk again. And taking away physical activity and learning how to walk with a prosthetic really put things over the edge, where after that, I really hit a new high, which was around, I think, 212 pounds to 217. And it's interesting because that's without the prosthetic and without the leg. And if you factor in, the missing limb, I'm thinking that adjusted, it probably would have been about 220 pounds at 5'7", which was getting into really critical obese territory.
So, mate, just to tap into that a bit further there, like you from a young age realized that you were eating despite not being hungry. Going through that amount of trauma that you went through at 40 years old, losing, your leg below the knee and your young daughter, did you find the urge to eat to cope with that, emotional stress that you're under?
It's interesting. I don't know that I did. It just seems like the desire to eat, and if someone could ever develop a magic pill, such that urge would be taken away, that'd be fantastic. And I've found my own ways to mitigate that, as I'm sure we'll discuss later in this podcast. But no, to answer your question, I don't believe that I was actually eating because of the trauma. In fact, ironically, in the beginning part of it, I actually lost weight. When I was in the hospital and rehab, we got to choose our meals. And I made it a point to choose healthy meals during my rehab. I was choosing salads and nuts and cottage cheese and fruit. And I was trying to go out of my way to choose healthy meals. Some of my other fellow patients, I was seeing what they were choosing, and it's not a diss on them or disrespect, but some of these people were choosing like pancakes and just tons of fattening food. I didn't pair the two up. The tragic event, I did not pair with needing to eat a lot of crap, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting. Like, I've interviewed a few people recently where it's the other way. So it just goes to show how individual we are. Sorry, mate, keep going.
No, I think that, the weight came on after the tragedy, for different reasons. One was that, it's difficult learning to walk with a prosthetic. I haven't been an easy fit. And if you take out, activity out of the mix, that exacerbated the problem, and it's quite likely that I just ate. But I don't know that it was just eating a lot of food because of what happened, because I've struggled throughout the years as it is.
Yeah. It's and you, like, as you were saying, you were quite a physically active guy most of your life, even from a young age, and that was the element that was kind of reduced, I guess, for you.
Yeah, and that's just another comment about that, is that it's kind of like when you eat too much and you overeat. So many things are taken from you in a negative way. I'm sure that many of us knows what things are, right? I mean, you can't fit into your clothes. You don't feel good. I mean, there's so many negative impacts on being overweight or obese. But one of the really cruel things is that I was pretty physical, and had I not been overweight, I mean, I might have had some muscles poking through, and I think there's muscles underneath all of that fat, because now that I've lost, close to 60 pounds, I can see some muscles there, all of those years, it would have been nice to have been able to perform and look my best had it not been covered by so much fat. Just a comment I just thought of.
I've seen some of your photos of your physique now. You're quite ripped. You got an impressive physique there for clearly someone that does quite a bit of exercise and looks after himself. So it's that's a tip of the hat to you, just of how well you're doing currently. Mate, with you was talking about some of the negative things of having gained that weight. So you peaked at around 212 pounds, possibly if we factor in the leg, maybe would have been worth more. Is it that, the one thing you remember that was probably the big downside to having gained all that weight?
I mean, if I could put it down to one thing, I mean, the thing that sticks out of my mind is that my family and I go to Hawaii annually. We're fortunate to be able to do that. And there's this hike that we take down to this black sand beach in the Big Island of Hawaii. And you go back up a steep hill. You go down a hill and you go back up a hill. And I had to stop over and over and over and over again. And, not only did I have to stop, I mean, I was just gasping for breath. And I was in my late 40s, I think, at the time. And looking back, I'm fortunate I didn't drop over with a heart attack based on what I was doing, walking up a hill like that with the disability, but also with like 65 pounds of fat on me. And it's like, I can't do this again. And that event really sticks out of my mind. It's like, I need to make a change. But I will say the turning point didn't come until sometime after that.
Okay.
I can elaborate, which is that for some reason, these factors, I've been wanting to do something about this over and over again. I tried and I tried and I tried, like probably so many of us have, but I didn't find the right combination of factors and circumstances. But when the pandemic hit, very obviously a horrible, tragic thing. But when the pandemic hit and I was working from home and my son was home because he couldn't go to school, I said, look, if I don't change, I'm not going to be around for my son. I could have a heart attack. And he deserves for me to be around for him and my daughter and my wife. And somehow being at home during the pandemic allowed me, as horrible as the pandemic is and was, to take stock of my life and say, wait a minute, I got to change.
Yeah. And again, a lot of people went the other way. Yeah, that's interesting. So you, like, this was back in when you were 49, you done the hike. So it wasn't quite the line in the sand, but you were telling me that you've since done that hike again. How did that go? We
did the hike. Let's see. So it's funny. The older I get, the more quickly time goes by. Let's see. I'm 53 now. We did the hike last year in Hawaii. We went down to the Big Island. I lost about 50 pounds. We did the same hike, and we couldn't go the prior year because of the pandemic, but we went last year. So there'd been a 2-year gap. We did the hike, and I walked up the hill, and I didn't have to stop one time, And the year before that, my daughter, Melissa, who's now 19, she was very happy about it. I didn't have to keep stopping and grabbing her arm. I made it the whole way myself without stopping one time, and it felt really good. And you know what? We're going to do the hike again this August, and I will have dropped a little even more weight, and I'm looking forward to doing the same hike again and cherishing it.
But isn't it good just to have those little benchmarks so you can compare your progress? I reckon that's fantastic. And what a way to do it with your family. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Are you tired of wasting so much time and mental space on trying to eat healthy? Introducing Mealsy. Mealsy is a meal planning app where with just a few simple clicks, you can create a meal plan that contains only dietitian created recipes. You select your food preferences, any foods you wish to avoid, and your goals, and in a matter of seconds, you have a meal plan fit with shopping lists, recipe instructions, and all the nutrition information to give you the confidence that you're eating the right food for you and your family. Go to mealsy.com. That's MEALZEE.com. Thanks. So just give us a little insight, Aaron, if you can, like a comparison of what your day consists of now in terms of exercise and diet versus, what it may have looked like in your peak period, if you like, where you were around that 212.
Well, I mean, thinking about that peak period, I mean, I was not having very much movement. I mean, I was sitting on the couch and I was not, I mean, I had a gym membership, but I wasn't going. And it's not that I didn't want to go, but it was like such an effort to get myself off the couch, to go to the gym, to get onto the elliptical machine or to do the whatever. And the eating, oh my gosh. I mean, it was just nonstop. I mean, just eating cheese and eating salami and eating bread. And, I was trying to eat healthy foods too, eating fruit. I mean, I've learned that you can overeat fruit. I mean, boy, there's so many diets that I've gone through, but that's another story. I mean,
there's a lot out there.
There's a lot out there, and I am not one of the believers that you can have an unlimited amount of fruit, even if, I mean, everyone's got to find their own path. Okay. But my path, I have learned that I cannot have an unlimited amount of fruit, even if a certain program may say it's 0 points. I cannot, that's not me. Now, I mean, I will be honest. I mean, I may have traded one compulsion for another. I mean, my day now, if I'm working from home, I mean, I try to do 100 push-ups every other day, and I'll do push-ups before my breakfast. My breakfast might consist of Kodiak cakes, which is like a whole wheat mixed with protein powder and egg white. And I have an app and I log every calorie that goes into my mouth, and I weigh my food on a kitchen scale.
And how long have you been doing that, Aaron? How long have you been tracking?
Now that's something really interesting. I'm glad you asked. I have been tracking for over probably 11 or 12 years with the Lose It app. Okay. I've been tracking for 11 or 12 years, but tracking alone has not been enough.
Yeah.
When I mentioned a combination of factors or a combination of things, for me, it's tracking, but it's also, there's a popular eating program out there. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name or not on your.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a program called Noom that was of help to me. Some of it, I took some of the concepts of Noom and I merged it with the Lose It app, which I've been using all this time, which I merged with social media, such as Facebook support groups and exercise. And all these factors together have been an extremely effective, powerful combination for me that allowed me to do what I never thought I could possibly do. But to answer your question, I've been logging for around 10 or 11 years. But when I look at the graph, it just goes up, 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 up. But then it went down. The graph went down when I joined the unofficial Noom Facebook support group, which I remember years ago, maybe in Weight Watchers, you go to a meeting in person once a week. Here, in this day of Facebook and all of the social media, you can get support 24/7 immediately.
Yeah.
I find it incredibly effective. So my day now consists of logging my food, cooking healthy food. My wife doesn't like to cook, so I cook the meals. My day consists of planning, healthy food, exercise, working, going to the gym daily, strength training at the gym.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's not easy. This never became an easy thing. I know I'll have to probably work at this for the rest of my life, but I'm okay with that.
When you say it's not easy, what is the most difficult part, or is it everything? Like, is it the physical gym side of it that's difficult, or is it the tracking or the planning of food?
I would say for me, what remains is it's difficult is the desire to eat. I don't know if it's a good comparison or not to liken it to say, any other kind of like addiction. I did go to OA, Overeaters Anonymous, at one point in time. I don't know if it's the same thing as saying being addicted to alcohol, because I've never been addicted to alcohol, or being addicted to smoking or something. I want to eat, but I'm able now to mitigate it and control it a lot better, far better. I've developed tools to control it.
Aaron, so I sort of touched on this earlier. There was a fantastic program on the BBC, it might be 6 or 7 years ago now. It was called The Right Diet for You. If you can jump online somewhere, it might still be out there. But it was based on research, and then they sort of created a documentary from it. And they broke people down into 3 categories, and they were emotional eaters, feasters, or constant cravers. And the constant cravers tended to have they predicted it was like an inflammatory state in the part of the brain that tells someone that they're full. That suppresses appetite, I should say, because there was feasters that struggled to feel full after a meal. They'd start eating and couldn't stop, whereas the constant cravers were just, there's that desire to just be eating all the time, whether it was hungry or not. And yeah, it was a fascinating doco because it actually showed the biological impact of our neurotransmitters, or the receptors in the brain, and just how that affected our eating patterns. And they predicted, everyone in this group, they predicted what type of person they were, and they pretty much got it correct. If they predicted someone based on their eating pattern was a constant craver or a feaster, and then they tested their neurotransmitter levels, it turned out that that's the category that they fit into. So if you get a chance, I think you'd probably find it quite interesting. I'm pretty sure it's called The Right Diet for You. It was a 3-part series, but a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years that have that, that sort of constant craver is the perfect name for it. I would love for the test to be available, that we could just say, let's do a test. Now, how they managed it, again, it was, there's no quick fix for it, but there was, exercise was a part of it, and then plenty of fiber and protein in the diet, because these are the things that help to control hunger. But, there are medications now. You talked about a pill. There are some pretty good medications coming onto the market that don't have as many side effects. They sort of mimic the neurotransmitters in our body. But, again, they still can have some sort of side effects. So anyway, that field is evolving. Mate, if you could give advice, I usually finish with this question. If you could give advice to anyone who's, kind of in the situation where you were at your highest weight, what would you give them? What advice or knowledge would you pass on that would help them get through it?
I can only say what worked for me, which are, I can just think of several factors that work for me. One is to really take an honest look at yourself. The very first thing that I did was I asked my wife to take pictures of me with my shirt off, front and back, and I took a really honest look at myself. Take an honest look at yourself. I was delusional for a number of years, so take an honest look at yourself. Look at pictures of yourself. That'd be one. Two is just, for me, be realistic. Eat. For me, that means eating healthy food. Healthy food, fruits, vegetables, proteins, good carbohydrates and things like that. Eating crap is something that I've phased out of my life. That's for me. Those are two things I can think of right off the bat. Another thing is that for me, weighing and measuring your food. Look, I didn't get this way. I didn't get the way that I was by eating like a sane person. Okay. So for me, my advice would be to get a kitchen scale and measure and weigh your food. And now it's just a normal thing. I wouldn't think of eating without weighing my food. So yeah, logging and tracking your food into an app. It's incredibly effective. And support for me is what really turned the tide. I was doing a lot of these things, but when I found the unofficial Noom Facebook support group, that's what really helped turn the tide for me, is being able to get support from other people. You support them. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Is that the right word? Yeah. You support them and they support you. And it is incredibly effective. It's what turned the tide for me.
Yeah, I love everything you've said there. And, the tracking and the weighing isn't for everyone, but I'm a big believer that people need to at least do it for a period of time, because they need to have some sort of knowledge about, what they're putting in their body. I kind of liken understanding calories to knowing exactly how many liters, what would we say, gallons of gasoline or petrol that's in your car. You don't really know exactly, but you know roughly where it's sitting. And that's kind of the approach that I suggest people take with calories. You've got to have some sort of idea of what you're putting in. Otherwise, being blind to it is very problematic. And I love the support advice that you gave, because it's in those groups, and I'm a part of these groups. And I'm mostly just an onlooker, because it's people that are giving advice through lived experience, which is, I think, a really important and a valuable tool that people can get, because you're getting advice from people that have been through it. And so, yeah, I love everything you've said there, Aaron. So thanks very much.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So, mate, that's us for today. Thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I think your story will inspire a lot of people. And yeah, best of luck for the future.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something from this podcast. Please subscribe, and if you have your own story to tell, please email us at hello@scoot.co. Thanks.